Let me just tell you about Dr. Lynn. So she came into my world relatively recently, just it's been only a month or two, maybe. And she has the sweetest heart, the sweetest spirit. And she watched a video that I did in a community that we are both in that I had forgotten I had done because it was done almost a year ago. And you commented on it and you're like, I feel like I want to be part of this, but I don't have time and I don't need to do anything else. And I messaged you back and I'm like, just come and just be. You don't have to do anything. This is a safe place to just be. And now she's speaking at the summit and she's in the mastermind. And that's what we, don't we? And so, Dr. Lynn, I have been so encouraged by you telling me that it felt like that video felt like a warm hug. I think about that. Your words gifted me, and I am so truly grateful for you. So I'm excited to hear what you have to share tonight, and we'll do some Q&A after you're done sharing.
Thank you. Thank you. I had one request. Don't make me cry. Was that too much to ask? Oh, Sam, I trusted you.
I don't
But
remember. Did you get me? Did I sign anything saying that? Because I don't remember that. Or was it
your
implied?
memory,
There's no
your
crying
memory.
in Safe Heart. Yeah, there's no crying in
I
Safe Heart
it
Connections.
was
I
very
don't.
first meeting. I was just like,
All right.
so
Well,
I'm
you're
going to
going
be
to do
known as
great.
the crybaby doctor. Thank you, Sam. So I'm Dr. Lynn Joe, officially Dr. Linus Joseph. Found Dr. Lynn Joe was cuter. Plus, Joseph's my ex-husband's name, and I'm divorced, and that it's still fresh enough that I'm coming to terms with the fact that I'm a little stuck with the name professionally. Oh, I had to make some notes because with everything that's happening, normally I speak freely, but this is such an emotional workshop. I have to make sure I can speak sense in terms of order. So I'll just tell you a little bit of the trauma that brought me to the world of being what I identify as is a trauma-informed medical doctor and health coach who helps women over 40 get to the root of unexplained pains and symptoms that doctors can't diagnose. Or to the people who are problem aware, I say I help women with the physical manifestation of stress in their body. So I had a very traumatic childhood that was lost on me while I was going through it to some extent because I was in survival mode. I didn't have time to complain about what I was going through and some of the things that I experienced because it was what I experienced all the time. It was my normal. So I have a memory of one parent sharpening a weapon to kill the other parent at one door, and the only other exit, the other parent was doing the same thing. That's the only major trigger I plan to draw. But it's just to say that I have such a vivid memory of that. And I just remember I was very young, like 5, 6, and I was looking from one parent to the next. And just, I remember the thought in my head at the time was, so what do y'all plan to do with me and all this? I was like, make this make sense. As I went through trauma therapy after 2020, that's how long it took me to realize that this is not normal. That's when I thought back to these events that just seemed like another day in the life of a child and realized, that's what trauma is like when you're immersed in it and you're too busy trying to survive it to think about itself. According to one author I heard about secondhand, if you ask a fish about water, the fish will probably tell you, what's water? So I went through my whole childhood, and like I said, it was just childhood. Well, I moved from place to place, never lived one place more than 5 years. until my marital home, which I bought myself for that very reason. I want to have a stationary home. So I told my ex, I am never again going to get put out of a home. So I'm buying a house, although he wanted to rent. By the way, he now lives in the house and I had to start over. So the journey of trauma got revealed after I had that moment of truth that opened my eyes to what was happening in my marriage for me to realize it was not right. Ironically, it's because my pastor at the time had just gotten divorced, and she wrote a book about trauma and about abuse. And I read that book and I thought I knew what abuse was because I grew up in abuse. The problem was I was very clear on what was verbal abuse, what was physical abuse, I knew what those obvious types of abuse were. I did not know what neglect was. I did not know what financial abuse was. I did not know what narcissistic abuse was. I did not know psychological abuse. To give you a hint, I had gone through several years of getting different diagnoses, different psychiatric diagnoses, because I would go to the doctor. I started having symptoms of anxiety and depression when I got pregnant with my first child. And it got to the point of being suicidal ideations by the pregnancy with the second child. I joke that I'm allergic to pregnancy hormones, but in the process of trying to figure out what was happening, every time we went to the psychiatrist, I would say what I think is happening. My ex would say what he thought was happening, and I trusted him. So I felt like maybe I was dissociated from myself, and his story was more accurate. So I agreed with him. And it was only in 2018 that both the psychiatrist and the therapist I had at the time started to notice a pattern and told me to look at him differently. And as soon as my eyes were opened, I was like, oh, hell no. So by mid 2018, I asked for a divorce because at that time my body had physically started breaking down. Ooh. So that's what I'm going to say for now. In the end, my only psychiatric diagnosis is pretty significant ADHD that I've had all my life, which is probably related to the trauma. And I have no sign of clinical depression or anxiety, and certainly not a personality disorder. Nor am I bipolar. So there's no psychosis, all those different things that were pinned on me as the time went on. I have proof, very expensive proof, that it's not. So that's my personal story. And in 1999, when I graduated from medical school and I was working in the hospital, and I worked accident and emergency for about 4 years. And then I went into primary care. One common thread in the way I saw patients was that I coached. But the word coach did not come to me until maybe 2022, when I was with a mindset coach in association with Forex investing, not even business coaching or health coaching. It was investment mindset coaching. And it morphed into a bit of life coaching because it turned out that this particular coach had a very similar life story. And through my experience with her and sharing our stories and all of that, that's how I discovered I was able to put a name to some of the things that I've been through. As simple as it is, like in the US, you all have a foster care system. In the Caribbean, we now have something formal that if you pass through Children's Authority, you'd find out about, but we're a small country. Everybody knows everybody. So I spent months and years after my parents split up, going from auntie to friend of my mother, to stranger. So I lived in all kinds of people's houses for all kinds of reasons. But only when talking to this coach about her experience with the foster care system, I'm like, that's familiar. I did that. So I got to see my life through different lenses, through the process of coaching, therapy, counseling, all kinds of different things. Then by the time my body started to show physical manifestations, like literal bleeding, and ended up with major surgery, now I had to turn the skills that I built over the years, coaching all these women and men and children, I had to turn those coaching skills onto myself. And that's how I coined the term train your intuition, to learn to trust your gut about what's happening in your body and what's causing it. Because in the last couple of years, especially, let's say the last 6 years, I had to learn to tune in to my own story. I had to listen to my own story. I had to learn to listen to my heart, recognize my feelings, my thoughts, my belief system. What is my core belief? Please go and watch that. Don't remember which day it was where we spoke about core beliefs. What are my values? I'm a very strong, fair, Christ-loving Christian since I was 15 years old. But in a lot of churches I've been in, I had some church trauma, some religious trauma, because people inflicted their belief system on me. And when it didn't align, I found myself living out of alignment with myself. I think yesterday we spoke about authenticity. So I had to discover that I was not being my authentic self, because the things that matter to me, the things that I believe in, I wasn't following it. Because if the pastor said, or the preacher said, or whoever the community said, this is the way we're going, there was this war within me that I'm sure this is what God wants me to do over here, but they're telling me I need to go over there. So what do you do? Was so much conflict, so much distress. So in the course of my healing journey and a lot of introspection, which, listen, I think one day I mentioned in the comments that my healing journey began and my divorce proceedings began the day I decided that I was going to love myself at least as much as I love everybody else, which means I had to put myself at least at the level that I was treating my children. I was treating my ex-husband. I treated my mother, my father, my cousins, my aunts, my friends, my neighbors, strangers. I was treating myself worse than I was treating strangers. Patience. So I'm like, okay, let me love myself at least as much. And the thing about it, Sam, you have a story of self-hate. I never had an obvious story of self-hate. But when I reflected on the way I treated myself versus the way I treated everybody else, did I really not hate myself? It was mind-blowing. So to me, to climb from where I was to here, it was a journey. It was an uphill climb, an out of breath, panting climb to start to love myself at least as much. Because it means that there are days now that I have to say, I don't have enough money to take my children and myself to a fancy restaurant to eat. But today, I need something nice to eat. I'm a bit of a foodie. So I found a way. There's a little place in the shopping center near me that weighs the food. So the food is good quality restaurant style food. And I can decide how much I'm going to put in my little container. And I can pick each item. So if I want to have the whole container be meat, I can do that. And I choose the quality stuff that would take me a lot of effort or time to make for myself. And I put it into this little container, and it'll end up costing about 10 US or so, which is a bit much for, it's a bit much for us here in Trinidad, because that's about $70 now money. And I would sit and eat it all by myself sometimes. And it's not that I'm not thinking of my kids and I'm not feeling that twinge of guilt, but my kids aren't foodies like I am. They'd be happy with a pizza. They'd be happy with some fried chicken, and I won't be happy. And I'm thinking of all the years that I ate fried chicken and pizza because that's what the family wanted. And even on my birthday, when I wouldn't go to the nice restaurant to eat the fine dining because I was told we couldn't afford it. That's a whole other story. I could preach a lot about financial abuse, but I don't want to share too much. Just out of respect for my ex, who is not going to hear this recording. So, in his absence, I still want to respect him though. I didn't mean to share so much, but I just wanted to say that my journey fed into my coaching. And I'll talk to Sam about why I chose to speak on the Friday, but I'm glad I did, because it's perfect, because having listened to everybody's talks up till now, they gave a lot of the meat of what you need to do to start your healing journey. So I called my talk Deep Healing Essentials because that's the name of my beginner level program, which is 4 weeks, five days of activities per week, 20 days total. And some of the things that I have the ladies go through is a lot of the things that we spoke about in this workshop. Intuition, seeing your symptoms as signals, using breath as a diagnostic tool, observing physical symptoms and sensations without judgment. Just observe them, notice them, just leave them alone. And then journaling. That's week 1. And we go into it. And when we have the live calls, we dive into how you can layer this in. Week 2, we talk about emotional triggers and connecting your stressors to your physical symptoms, identifying your patterns with diet, sleep, water, exercise. So notice how your body responds to more or less of these things. Identifying the hidden beliefs that impact your health because they came from your culture or your upbringing or your self-talk or your religion. Identifying the connections that need to be made. Building awareness through movement, moving and being present in your body as you move. So it's not just about exercise, but it's about, I don't know if you notice that I shift in my chair a lot now because I'm doing a lot more awareness of my physical body and where I am on my healing journey. Stress is being dissipated through my nervous system into my muscles, as I just found out it's supposed to. Dr. Joseph learned something new in the last month or two, that your body is programmed to take stress from your nervous system, your spine, into your ligaments and all the good anatomy and dissipate it into your muscles. So that is why when you're stressed, you get muscle tightness and back pain and whatever. And because of this whole awareness practice that I've been doing, my body has gotten so sensitive that I get stresses in specific places. Like I got new puppies, and out of worrying for those puppies, I have a shoulder issue. The shoulder was locking up. And when the puppies are okay, the shoulder settles down. When the puppy gets sick, the shoulder tightens up. So it's about 80% okay now. But different sensations and different triggers manifest in different parts of my body. So if I get a new pain or a new tightness or something, I just have to think, what's going on? And I just have to, what changed in the last week or couple of days before this started that could be why this is happening? So imagine I started working with a new coach, not the one we're with now, Sam, but the one before. And while working with that coach, I started having shoulder spasm and back spasms because she was triggering me in a particular way. It's like teaching people how to be present in their bodies and aware, always aware of your breath. Are you breathing fully and deeply? Are you present in the moment, or are you going through the motions? When you make a decision, are you leaning into people pleasing? Or are you establishing yourself and standing up for yourself and pushing the envelope where it's uncomfortable? And the times when you're not ready to make that step, can you acknowledge it? Be grateful for the awareness, but acknowledge that I'm just not ready yet to go through. Like, I have a problem sometimes with charging friends. If a friend needs service and I have to charge them and they don't look eager and willing to pay, it is so awkward that a lot of people just take advantage. And I'm like, whatever. But I acknowledge that's a problem I need to address, especially now that I'm self-employed, right? But I went this week, I pushed through and messaged somebody while the heart was doing this and while all the symptoms were happening. I addressed it. And it turns out it wasn't as bad as I even thought. They did intend to pay, it's just that in the moment it slipped out. But I had to deal with, why do I feel so much pressure to charge for my professional services? So these are the things that we go through and we build on it, because once you've gotten through those things, you map symptom triggers, you identify areas in your body that, like I said, where things manifest, but you also identify different types of health. Do you need to work on your financial health, your physical health, your emotional health, spiritual health, your financial health? There are categories that all feed into each other because we're one person and everything connects. So there's more to the program, but I just want to say my freebie, that the link is somewhere behind me. Right? The freebie is going to get you to sign up for Deep Healing Essentials, the whole program, not a mini version of it, the whole program, Deep Healing Essentials. And I was going to give a little handout about it because the program costs $500 US. Nah. Today, I made a decision and I put it up on social media, so I can't take it back. I'm going to gift the whole program to the ladies who sign up this month, since this recording is going to be available till the end of the month, correct? It's going to be on YouTube. So until the 31st, it's going to be available. Now, it takes 20 days to actively go through it. So don't wait till the 30th to sign up. It would serve you best if you sign up now. I'll give you full access. You're going to have to join my community to get access. It's not a trick. If you want to leave the community after, you're free to do so. And we're going to meet live once a week for an hour for Q&A so that you can directly ask me any questions about the program. And that's my gift to you. And just listening to the speakers today, I'm feeling so good about that, because I just realized that was me taking action against some of the limiting beliefs that were starting to plague my mind, because I'm starting to look at the finances side eye and thinking, okay, something's not going to work if things don't change. Your brain is saying, you can't give this away. Oh, yes, I can. And I'm going to watch what happens in the name of gratitude.
Thank you, Dr. Lynn. It's very generous, very generous. So let's talk just a little bit because you were telling some of your story, and I think it resonated with a lot of the women. And I think that for so many of us, we forget that we've gone through our healing journey or we're on our healing journey, that there's so many other women or other people that are two steps ahead or two steps behind, and we're all on this journey together. And none of us get out of this world unscathed. We all got something. And so I'd like just to tie it back to gratitude a little bit and think about in the moments in the last couple of years. I know right before we met, even you had just had your diagnosis about ADHD. And tell me about, because I remember when we were talking at one point, the light bulb that came on, like you were grateful that you finally got an answer. So can you talk about the gratitude around finally getting a proper diagnosis?
I didn't mention gratitude so specifically because it's been so well done by everybody. But gratitude helped me heal from my divorce because once I could shift from being angry, from being hurt, from being disappointed, to being grateful for those 14 years, to being grateful that my ex was an excellent father and I never had a challenge with him taking care of the kids and supporting the family in those physical ways. That I'm grateful that a lot of things that women complain about, I didn't complain about, which that gratitude, funny enough, got toxic for me because I was so grateful for what I had that I tolerated what I shouldn't have. So for me, the gratitude, and I'm going to get back to the ADHD gratitude, but gratitude is such a fundamental part of the process. If you don't shift your mindset, you just can't observe without the judgment. If you don't have some gratitude for the fact that, okay, when I find a new symptom, do I get upset about it? Because I could tell you, just, I remember, was it like November? A new symptom or a new pain somewhere showed up, and I'm like, oh my God, how am I supposed to help women heal if I'm still getting pains? And I'm starting to feel, am I a fraud? But healing is not a one and done. It's not like you're gonna spend 20 days or
Correct.
6 months and all of a sudden, woo,
10
you,
years.
yeah, for the rest of your life, you're never gonna have a problem. It's not like that. But yet I still feel like I have to use the word heal because the healing is not, yes, I am physically better. Yes, I have fewer symptoms. Yes, I can show you evidence of things improving directly due to gratitude and the mindfulness and everything. But it's not always, sometimes it's the same, it's about your perception, the way you look at it. Because if, like I said in the chat, I have been grateful for my patients' pain because without this pain, they would have stayed home and died. Many patients stop their medication that they need because they're feeling better. And as soon as they feel better, they stop doing all the things that made them actually better. And some of the most deadly diseases, like a silent heart attack, is the ones you don't feel pain for. So getting a diagnosis, I was grateful because now I know what things are. And since getting that diagnosis, things have been making a whole lot more sense because whereas I thought something was anxiety, I thought something was depression, I thought something was whatever. So I'm looking at it a particular way, I'm dealing with it a particular way. Now knowing what it is means that I can deal with it more accurately and I get better results as a result.
hmm Yeah, I've made so many decisions in my life based on poor information,
Yeah.
inaccurate information, whether it was on purpose or not. right? And so when you
Mhm.
can make decisions based on the truth, it's just a whole different ball of wax. Dr. Lynn, you are very generous to give away your program. Ladies, what my request for you would be is if you take Dr. Lynn up on the offer, that you do what she asks you to do. She knows what she's talking about. And don't just sign up and then do nothing. Because I think I mentioned it the other day, like there's going to have been 25 speakers